Jordan Peterson. All right, let's talk. Jordan Peterson, let me first say that there's no one in this world that I agree with on everything they say. Jordan Peterson, I don't really know if he talks about women that much. I wish he would talk more about women's role in kind of like helping men to like come out of their shells, I guess. He seems to talk about like being the alpha and like how to attract women, but he doesn't talk about like women's role in like, yeah, just kind of almost guiding men in a way, helping them like grow. So I maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like he's focusing on too much on just like teaching guys like how to attract women. I'm like, okay, at least you're not one of those guys on YouTube that's like, here's how you get laid in one night or whatever. Anyway, next thing, archetypes. He talks a lot about archetypes, and I just love his interpretation of movies like Pinocchio. He talks about the archetypes in Pinocchio, kind of the symbology and metaphor, stuff like that. He's really good at that. Philosophy, he talks about Carl Jung. He got me onto Carl Jung, as well as Nietzsche and a little bit of Freud. He's a super cool guy. He watches Trailer Park Boys. And I could relate to him a lot because he struggled as a young man. He was an alcoholic. He had a rough start, but then he got into school and sobered up and everything. So that was really an inspiration to me. He talks a lot about young men who just, they need, like, it's like they're just missing like a little bit of encouragement and responsibility too. It's like, he talks a lot about how people suffer when they don't have enough responsibility. So I can really relate to a lot of the things that he says. I really just like his message of like taking responsibility for what you have the ability to control. Like, you might not be able to save the world, but you can at least clean your room, as he says. And I think he means that literally and metaphorically. He says clean your room. Like, look, you can sit on your bed and freak out about how the world's going to shit and it's all chaos. Or you can just take responsibility for what you have control over, and what your responsibilities are, you do those, and that's where you start. And apparently that's what a lot of young men these days are looking for. That was the message they needed to hear, because he has a huge following now just from YouTube. Like, I was on YouTube listening to I think I was listening to Carl Jung or like people talking about him, and then I remember I was out there trimming a bush or something, like trimming a bush, doing yard work, and I'm listening to this lecture, and this guy who sounds like Kermit the Frog a little bit, and I'm listening to this lecture, and he starts talking about Nietzsche and how that thing that he says about God is dead, how everyone misinterprets that. And then he went deep into like religion and how people often use religion as like a compass for their lives, and how once that compass is taken away, it can be chaotic. I don't know what his views on religion are, but it's interesting. And yeah, I that was at a time when I was without religion, but I was also felt lost. So I was looking for some sort of compass to guide me. And I think the responsibility is really my compass now. Just taking responsibility for myself and what I need to do. He was talking about Nietzsche, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I listened to it, and I was like, whoa. And then all these lectures kept coming up of him teaching at schools, and I was like, dang. And then I looked down. At first, I didn't even know what the guy looked like. I was just listening to it in my headphones, just all these lectures, I was like, holy shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. Because into like mythology, metaphors, psychology, philosophy, archetypes. So I was really resonating with me. And then I was like, oh, Jordan Peterson. And then he started getting famous. And then there's the whole thing about the free speech. And it was interesting. So yeah, that's my take on Jordan Peterson. I think he's super smart. He's not perfect, but he's an inspiration to a lot of young men out there, myself included. So if you're interested, check him out. He has tons of lectures on YouTube where he's just teaching his class. He's a college professor. He's a clinical psychologist, and he's interesting. I think you'll like him. All right, peace, guys. That's my take on Jordan Peterson. Salutations. Happy 4th.